So, what if I told you that in just 10 years, the job of a software engineer is going to be almost unrecognizable? We're about to dive into a future that's moving way beyond just writing code and fighting with syntax. We're entering an era where engineers, well, we become the architects of intelligence itself. Let's get into it. Okay, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at how the role itself is evolving. Then, and this is a big one, we'll see why the actual language of software is changing. We'll check out the new tools, walk through what a day in the life looks like, and finally, we'll cover the skills you're actually going to need to succeed.
First up, let's just trace this incredible evolution. And I'm not talking about some minor update here. No, this is a complete redefinition of what the job even is, all happening in the span of about 20 years.
Just look at this timeline. Back in 2015, it was all about being a craftsman, manually hammering out code. Right now, in 2025, we're in this cool co-pilot phase, working alongside AI. But the real jump, the game changer, is 2035. That's when we become the true architects, the ones designing and directing these incredibly powerful AI systems. And this really gets to the core of it. The old-school code craftsman was obsessed with the how, memorizing syntax, hunting down the right library. But the intelligence architect of the future, they're all about the what and the why, defining the system's purpose, its logic, and crucially, its ethical boundaries. So this shift in focus leads to probably the most mind-bending change of all, the very language we use to build software. This isn't about learning the next hot framework, it's about learning a completely new way to talk to our machines. Now, I know that sounds shocking, but think about it. The real value is no longer in manually building something that an AI can spit out in a millisecond. Yeah, it's useful to understand how it works, but it's just not where a professional is going to spend their time. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Instead of translating our ideas into Python or Rust, we're going to be instructing machines directly in our own language. And that means being clear, being precise, being completely unambiguous. That becomes the most valuable technical skill you can have. This right here is the new definition of senior. It's got nothing to do with knowing 10 different programming languages. It's all about your ability to take a messy, ambiguous, real-world problem and break it down into a set of rock-solid logical rules that an AI can understand and act on perfectly. Okay, so if we're not sitting in VS Code or JetBrains all day, what does our toolkit even look like? Well, we need to talk about the Swarm IDE. This is going to be the command center for building everything in the future. You don't start with a blank file anymore. You start with intent. You just describe what you want in plain language, but you have to be specific about the critical stuff, the performance, the latency, the regulations it has to follow. This prompt, it's basically your new main function. And from that one prompt, the IDE unleashes a whole team of specialized AI agents. And they don't just write code, they collaborate. You've got a database agent setting the foundation, an API agent defining how everything talks, a front-end agent building the UI, and this is so important, an adversary agent that's trying to break the whole thing from the very beginning. And here's the magic. Before any real human ever sees your app, you get to test it at an insane scale. The system gets deployed into this perfect digital copy of the world, like a little matrix light where millions of AI users just hammer on it, finding bugs and bottlenecks before it ever goes live. Okay, I know this all sounds a little sci-fi, so let's bring it back down to earth. What does a typical Tuesday actually look like for one of these intelligence architects in 2035? It's really less about coding and a lot more like conducting an orchestra of AIs. So your day is all about high-level direction. You might start your morning just reviewing and approving big architectural changes that the AIs have proposed. Then maybe you have a conversation with your lead AI to hash out a new feature. In the afternoon, you might be debugging the AI's reasoning, not its code. And then you end the day acting as that essential human guardrail, auditing the ethics and security of the system. So when you boil it all down, your job really comes down to two main things. First, you're the referee. Settling arguments when two AIs disagree on the best way to build something. And second, you're the governor, setting those clear, non-negotiable boundaries that the AI swarm has to work within. So, given this pretty radical vision of the future, the skills we need to be working on have to change too. What should we actually be focusing on right now to get ready for this? The focus just shifts dramatically. You need to have a deep, deep understanding of system design to see that huge big picture. You'll need to understand AI psychology, Basically, how to ask the right questions to get what you want. Formal verification, the math that can actually prove a system is correct, becomes absolutely critical. And then, above all, it's the uniquely human skills: empathy, negotiation, and ethical judgment. Those become your superpowers.
All right, let's bring all this home with one final metaphor that, for me, just makes this whole new role click into place. It's all about a change in scale, from the tiny to the truly massive.
This is just the perfect summary. For decades, software engineers have been the bricklayers, carefully putting each line of code in place. By 2035, the AI agents are the bricklayers. Our job? We become the city planners. We design the blueprint, we map out the infrastructure, and we make sure that the city we're building is safe, efficient, and actually a good place for people to live.
And that leaves us with the most important question of all. When the technical problem of how to build something is basically solved by AI, we're left with the purely human question. What should we build? And maybe more importantly, why? That's a question only an architect, not a machine, can ever answer. Thanks for joining this explainer.